welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Fellas. As always, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date on all things The Fellas and ring the notification bell. Today, we're talking about the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka, and it was enjoyable. I mean, jumping right into it, Oscar caught Kimi and George napping at the start. I mean, he got a jump on them and got an excellent start and pulled around. Ray, what are your thoughts on the start of the race?
Yeah, yes, I agree with your statement that Oscar caught them sleeping, but I think I think overall, some of the drivers are still working out how to get off the line with the new power plant that they are using, right? And I think it's still, this is like the third race in or something like that, so they're still working on it. But Oscar did jump out, and and he caught them kind of off guard, I think, because one would have expected the Mercedes to be up there, if not in front of them, right? Or at least with him. And that wasn't the case at the start, right? So, because even a couple Ferraris got around, right? And I think they're still working on the deployment. And I think George was complaining about the setup of the car during the practice up to the race, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, definitely the start. Oscar just jumped. It seemed almost like the Mercedes were asleep. Andrew was saying that. So he just pulled around. Charles pulled around, pulled into second. Lando jumped up into third. And then George dropped back to fourth as a result of that. And Kimi fell all the way back to sixth because Lewis jumped in and took fifth place at the start. So it was, we know that Ferraris have a good, their start system is really good. And it shows, it shows, Mercedes, I don't know. They seem to be okay in the other races, but in this one in particular, for both of them, they both got caught out. But
yes. And considering that McLaren is running a Mercedes power plant also, right?
Right.
Yes.
So I mean, even them running the Mercedes power unit, we know that they don't get the full specifications, or let's say the full manual on how to extract the most out of it, which leads me to our next one and our next question, in the sense of, has McLaren unlocked their Mercedes power unit? It seems to me, at least right now from this race, that they're making inroads into unlocking it, good inroads into unlocking it, because Oscar was leading comfortably and he was covering George behind. What's your thoughts, Ray?
Yeah, I think Oscar came to make a point, right? Because he's missed the two other races, and he wanted to take charge of the race and even take charge of the team in a respect, right? Because he also said to the guy on the wall that I basically wanted to be the first one to go in to swap tires, right? So Oscar came with a purpose. And his purpose was to win the race, right? And that's what he tried to execute as he went forward. As the race progressed, that's what he did, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. He definitely was there. I did hear the radio communication with his race engineer, where he basically was saying, yeah, I think we can carry this through. We can get it was indicating that he felt they could get a good result, right? Because again, he was covering George pretty well, covering him up until lap 22, because both Oscar and George had pitted right before lap 22. And then when Ollie Behrman crashed, that threw everything off after that. That's what put Kimi back in. That opened back the door for him to come through to challenge for the lead again for the race win, which he did. What do you feel?
I think yes, because after George had already changed tires, right? They fell into they got the gift, which that was caused by Colapinto, and it was caused by Colapinto, right? And his Behrman came around one of the corners, and I guess the car may have been in some harvesting mode where he had to Colapinto had to drop gears to get it to pick up speed. And Behrman tried to take evasive action and went across and hit the other side of the wall. So it gave Lewis and
Kimi,
and Kimi the opportunity to get tires and not lose as much time as everybody else, because when Lewis came out, George made it a point to kind of get in front of him, right? Right, because the other guys were in the back part of the field because they pitted before coming back through, right? So yeah, it's I don't know. Mercedes still have some stuff to work out, put it that way. And I think they have some stuff that they need to. I don't think they were firing on all 8 cylinders or 10 during this race.
Yeah, they seem to have some teething pains of their own with their car, with their package. But the thing, even though we're here, I'm gonna fast forward a bit before we get to the next one. Is that I want to speak on this in the sense of that the Charles and Lewis battle in Mercedes, right? I mean, they looked good. What's your take? And I think this will lead into what we're going to talk about later. But what's your take on it? It to me, it seems that, well, 2 things. If Charles is behind Lewis, he starts to cry on the radio, right? That, about pace, because he wants team orders. Third race in? And we're doing that. But I can understand if you're, further down in the season and, you need to pick one. But anyway, crying about that. But then I got to give it to Charles, though, that when he did ultimately do it on track, which is, I think, the ideal way, instead of complaining on the radio about it, he pulled away. Now, I'm saying that because it leads into our next point, in the sense of the heavy mental challenge, right, for the drivers, because he pulls away, but it seems that when he pulled away, it was at a part of a track where Lewis had already depleted his battery. And I'm not trying to pad for Lewis. I'm just trying to talk about it from this point of view with the new rules. So he had nothing left in his battery to try to challenge him back, right? So they have to be strategic. I don't know. I'm watching the season under the new rules. I'm not trying to be negative to change. Change is good. Change is, if initially it isn't, if you work it out, it becomes good again. But I don't know. What's your thought on the rules itself and the deployment?
Well, you touch on some other stuff there. I'm going to
talk about it.
Lewis wasn't happy with the car from the beginning of the weekend, right? So the car was not optimum for him, put it that way, right? It was not set up optimum for him. And I think it leads into what you say about managing the deployment of the power unit, right? The battery power, right? And it's causing the drivers to rethink it, how they do it, because you use it up, then you have nothing else. So it's when can you use it, and how much do you use to help you gain the position you want to gain, right? And it's almost like you need to be strategic in the sense that you give it up at a point where when it drains, the other car can't pass you, because it might be like a series of tight corners or anything, thereby trying to buy you some more time to try and replenish the unit for the next time, right? So I think that's what the drivers are battling with in a way, right? Because I saw an interview with Lawson after the race, and he says the same thing. It said that out there they're learning how to use the car in the race on the particular track, right? And one would think if they stay with this format of how their power unit deploys, next year, as the year progresses, they'll get more accustomed to find out where I can use it. I should use it here. Or no, I shouldn't use it here. I should sit back, right? Because it's all in the FI did this in the pretense to make it entertaining for the viewers that are watching, right? And I think in some ways it might be cutting some viewers the wrong way. I think that the purist of Formula One, right, might be having some issues with some, as well as the drivers, with the new technology and how to use it in order to gain a spot, right? Whereas I think that the newer viewers to Formula One, it's entertaining because you're seeing actual passing on track. So, for me, the actual passing on track, you've heard me say it all the time. I'm for that. But I'm thinking that maybe they're going to have to do some more refinements to that power unit and how it deploys itself to somewhat make it somewhat more natural, for lack of a better term, right, for the drivers, so that we don't have that, oh, I know on corner 10, that's the only place you're going to pass. And there are some tracks that, that they have gone through and throughout the years that, yes, you have designated areas where you can only pass there, right? But it's just, I don't know. I'm kind of near. Maybe, you're too into it, but I could see people that are just coming to the sport and seeing that passing, that active passing, will pique their interest to be there, right? And keep watching.
Yeah.
I don't know if I explained myself.
No, you did, because that's where that's kind of where I am. I'm a little indifferent at the moment to it. I'm still watching to see how it evolves, because on one hand, yes, seeing the amount of passes that we're seeing in a race, you typically haven't seen. You don't see that you never saw that many, and it's usually a dominant team, driver, car, package, and they'll pass who they need to pass and they're gone, right? But now you're actually seeing more passing. But then from the point of view of the drivers, there are those that are not happy, right? They're not happy with it. And then you have those that seem to be in the camp of, well, this is what it is. Let's just get on with it. Let's figure this out and just move on from there. And then it's the same for the fans. Like you said, you're right. The new fans, the Drive to Survive people that have come in, yeah, I'm sure they're happy with it. Viewership is up. But for the diehard fans, I count myself as one of them, is, sometimes you're like, I don't know. But I'm kind of, like I said, I'm on the fence, because I'm like, you know what? You had to do something, because we would just see like parades around tracks for so many years, and now you're not seeing it. But I'm hoping they sort it out in a they refine it. That's the word I should say, that they continue to refine it to the point where maybe it's not as blatant, where it's just, yeah, okay, you got me here, but I'm just going to wait for you right here at this next one, and I'll just hit my button and I'm going to pass you there. So anyway.
Well, but you're seeing that now, right? Because those that have it, those that kind of figured it out from the drivers that figured it out, they're kind of doing that same thing, because they're realizing that it doesn't make sense for me to hit it over here when I use it up. We're going to go to another, in two corners, we're at another straight where, I'm going to lose it again.
And that's what brings in the heavy mental challenge for the drivers, because it's not just racecraft anymore. It's also power unit management and deployment. It's a whole other level of thinking beyond what they normally would have done.
Right. It's a new layer on top of racecraft, right?
Correct.
Because the deployment of the power unit is also part of your strategy, but that you have to put to bear when you're doing your race. So as part of your racecraft package, put it that way. Right. And that's what everybody's going. But I was looking at something Peter Windsor said, and he's saying that maybe the FIA may need to rethink how they go about the regeneration process, because he highlighted that the incident with Behrman and Colapinto may have been attributed to the fact that the car was regenerating and Colapinto had to go to a lower gear that caused the car to slow in an abnormal location. And then, Behrman took action to try and avoid the accident and end up wrecking his car and kind of hurt himself a little bit. So there's still refinement. So, basically I think this year, in my eye, it's just experimental. We just throw it up in the air and it's done, because basically it's like what happens now in the tech world or everything, where the public is going to work out all the kinks of your idea. Basically, that's what's happening to these guys, that they threw this power package together. And yes, I'm not saying that it didn't do work, but it still needed more time. And they're just using, I just see this season as a season that you're going to use to really refine it. And again, it comes back to what I keep harping on. With these type of things, we're losing, as the audience, the ability to see good drivers that are in the rest of the field.
Right. Well, that's actually always been the case,
I like how you say that. I guess I'm still too new to Formula One to think that everybody's going to get a better shake, but okay, I got you.
No. and you say that, I recommend this to people. I saw an episode or listened to an episode of the High Performance podcast, and they had Mark Webber on, and for as much as he was able to, he shed light on that inter-team rivalry that was happening between him and Sebastian Vettel back then, and all of that, where yes, sometimes you can be good, but you're not allowed to be that good. Depending on who. I'm going to say it. Depending on who your teammate is, because he alluded to the fact that there were times where he might have been quicker and able to win, but he was not allowed to. Whether that meant that he didn't get the upgrade that Sebastian got, or his power unit might have been turned down, at a point where he's going to. It was interesting. It was delicate, but when you say about seeing how other good drivers, that are on the field, they're all good because they're there, but they also have to work the politics of it too. But that's an episode I would recommend people listen to. I listened to it, and he didn't throw mud, but he highlighted the fact that sometimes he and his race engineer had worked out that Mark would know if his race engineer came in to tell him something like whole station, he would know that it wasn't from his race engineer, it's from the team. So he kind of was working that out, like, oh, then I'm not going to follow that, or I'm going to, kind of thing. So it kind of gave a hint. But anyway, it's to the point of what you said about other good drivers. Yeah, but not everyone is always allowed to show how good they are. But so back to what we were saying about the mental challenge, it kind of ties in too. It's like we have Max, who's been very outspoken about not liking these rules. And we know Max is a really good driver, an exception, a world champion. And even when he went to the Nürburgring, they won until they were DQ'd because of having an extra set of tires. Like, no one can argue that Max is not an exceptional driver, but he's languishing back down there too, fighting with Pierre Gasly. And you have to ask if part of that is a result of these new rules. Maybe, that he's not adjusting to them well, in addition to his Ford power unit and the car itself. What do you think about Max?
Well, isn't Max that was part of the group that called it Mario Kart?
Yes.
And I think I heard a driver, I've never done Mario Kart, but it seems like you drive and then you pick up stuff on the way that gives you extra power or whatever. And I think I heard a driver commented that, like, oh, we got the pumpkin, or whatever that, an analogy to that stuff. So that's where I think the FIA has to come, as I said, come in and look at that stuff, right? Because yes, they're trying to show more movement on track, but they're going to have to do some more refinement on the power unit configuration that they have. And so that's why I say this year is just a test year, in my opinion, for, people that can make it, right? If you're lucky that you are one of the, not one of the considered top tier teams that have the stuff, then, this might be the year for you to shine and do your stuff. But it seems like, I'm just taking it as testing right now, because again, the unit is very sporadic in how it deploys also. And, sometimes it deploys too much, too quickly and stuff like that. So this is just perfect word. This is the beta testing era. So with the beta testing the engine right now, that's it.
Right.
Yes,
well,
I am
the
a
whole
tech-oriented person, so yes,
right.
I use beta testing. Yes.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in the end, I would hope that they get to a point where it can become enjoyable for the drivers again as well. I mean, like I say, you have to try something new because there were so much complaints before. And of course, now that they see that this formula seems to be working as far as bringing in people, yes, but I agree with you. I think further refinement, and hopefully they'll get it to a better place where it can touch a little bit more, where there can be that challenge for those top drivers. That's what separates them from the rest. Racecraft, not managing a battery per se. So it's not that heavily weighted on that.
So I'm going to I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Go ahead.
I think some people would say that during the race, managing the battery is part of that whole strategy, right? So them, complaining is more, they need to take the time to make sure they get to understand the equipment in which they're using on track.
Okay.
Right. So I could hear that argument coming down, that, it's just a different side of power setup, and you got to figure out how to best to capitalize on that power that's given to you to achieve what you want to achieve.
And then there are those of us that don't like change as well, especially if,
well, that even gets worse. Yes.
Yeah. Right. So we get that. Okay. Well, moving into race results. I mean, we again, I'll use Simon's phrase. We have to give Kimi his flowers. This is his second race victory, and coming from a point where it seemed like it was lost, it was lost, and to recover, even though that was at the, with the help of the safety car, he won. He drove well and won. And, Oscar also recovered from that as a result, recovered after that, and he came in second, with Charles getting his third place finish for this season. Well, what do you think about the results?
So I have to take back what I said a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Maybe George
refresh our memories.
Maybe George made a mistake by throwing Kimi a bone and letting him win. Right. So Kimi is maybe taking it too seriously and didn't understand, that was just, I'm just offering that up for you. But, and to be frank, George said the car setup was never tops for him anyway.
Right.
And, and Kimi's quick, right? So he saw the opportunity and he took it. So I really don't have anything to say against him to do that, for doing that. And the same thing we saw with Oscar. Oscar came to make a point. Right, because he was down 0, right, 2 zeros, right, and he wants the championship this year, so he's here to make a point. And so we got to see the potential of the both Mercedes power plants, the one that the A team has and the one that the customer has, right? And Oscar maximized on that. So he got, was able to come in second. And Leclerc is out there to make sure that, Hamilton never wins anything anymore. And so that's basically what it is. It's just that, he is trying to mentally demoralize him, because once he gets behind him, he's like, "Hey, man, I'm behind this guy. This guy's in my way. Let him get out." But the kicker is that when he gets in front,
he
he
disappears.
goes. So let me say this: I heard a thing from, again, one of my favorite commentators, Peter Windsor, and he said when.
Oh, we just lost Ray. Go repeat that if you're there.
So he's analyzing how they take corners, right? And they said that the way Lewis takes corners was putting more stress on the tires. That possibly, Peter said, that might have caused them to not be able to come back at Charles when Charles went. So
yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Well, definitely that's what Charles is doing. He's playing the mental game, and I like Charles, and I don't have a problem with it because Lewis played that game too over his career. So it's, as they say, it's par for the course, right?
So what goes around comes around. Is that what you're saying?
Very, very much so. Very much so. And it's up to Lewis to figure out how to beat him. And if what Peter Windsor said and what you just stated is that he's causing his tires to go off, he's getting higher deg on his tires as a result of how he's driving it compared to Charles, then he needs to adjust. Because you're right. Yes, I'm like annoyed when I see let's see how long it takes before he comes on the radio. Yes, I know the meaning of that, but I enjoyed that he didn't get that wave through from Ferrari, and then he took it, right? He took the place. He earned the place, right? And I enjoyed that. But Lewis has to get the measure of Charles, and Charles still has the measure of Lewis right now. He still has it. So and I can't fault him for that. He's pulling everything out of his bag of tricks to try to become the number one. To become the number one, because I think when Carlos was there, I think they were a little bit more even. But hey, let's say it this way, as saying that Carlos was a stronger teammate for right now, and I'm not poo-pooing Lewis, but Carlos was a stronger teammate to Charles than Lewis is right now. Still,
I'd agree.
Still, so he's got to work that out. But anyway, going back to it, yes, Oscar. Yes, he came with a mission, and he's 2 races in arrears, and he needs to, shine for all the rest that he has, and hope that the front runners also have some DNFs here and there to try to, so he can get closer to them. But he came, and I think Oscar, again, I'm going to stick my head out. I still think he has the measure of Lando. I'll say that. I still think he has the measure of Lando. I'm watching Lando to see how he goes through the rest of this season. I mean, he's the reigning world champion, but I don't know. I think it's going more towards Oscar again. So, the final results, we know Kimi winning, Oscar second, and Charles third. George pulled up into fourth, and Lando fifth. Lewis finished down in sixth. We know about Gasly and Verstappen. That was interesting, watching them battle for a little while. Not used to seeing Max all the way down there, but
right. Yeah, but they're working on their unit to get it, to where they need it. So and Max realized that there was I saw one of his interview. He realized that Gasly had figured out how to better deploy than he did.
And that's part of the adjustments, right? Yes, that's the way it was, but this is the way it is, and you need to try to figure out how to work with the way it is, right? So we'll see how that is. Nothing against Max, he's a racer. And then Liam Lawson did okay, finishing ninth place, and Lindblad was out of the points, so that's good for Liam as well.
Yeah.
So moving into predictions, Miami. So we have the whole month of April, nothing. Well, we know why. What are your predictions for Miami?
There's going to be I'm going to say George, Kimi, and it's a toss-up between the McLaren people and Ferrari. I want to say it's a toss-up between, I would say the 2 McLarens and the 2 Ferraris. I don't know which one to pick, to be honest.
What, to be in third?
Yeah, to be in third. Yeah. But I think because George is going to come back with a vengeance. Kimi is quick. So, it could be a George, Oscar, or Lando, because Lando's pissed off now because, Oscar was on a podium. And, it could be Charles or Lewis. I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping for Lewis, but I lean towards Charles. I think the team is moving the car to Charles already.
Okay. That's possible. I think it's going to be Oscar, George, and Kimi. I don't think Mercedes.
Wow.
I don't think Mercedes is done. I'm going to gamble, and I'm not a gambling man. I'm going to gamble and say that I think McLaren has really started to unlock their power unit. And I think Oscar is, hungry, as we know, and he's pushing to make up ground. And I think he's gonna win that one. I think he's gonna win.
Okay.
And then George is gonna stamp his authority back on Kimi, but Kimi's gonna be there because Kimi's already flying high, so he knows. Right. And that's what I think it is. Fourth will be Charles.
Okay.
I say that. So okay.
So Lewis is gonna finish behind Charles as usual. Is that what you're saying?
For now. I think Lewis. I'll say this. I think Lewis. Further down in the season, Lewis is going to get the measure. He's going to get the handle on it, and he's going to be able to finish ahead of Charles.
So let me ask you this question.
At some point.
All right. You just tapped into it. Typically, the car goes to a particular driver as it progresses.
True.
After what I just said, you still stand by your statement, what you just said before that?
Yeah, I'm going to say that because I don't think Lewis is washed up.
No.
Right? I don't think he is.
No.
I think for right now, they're still at a point where they might be doing upgrades that may still be neutral enough to benefit both of them. Hopefully. I mean, I'm sure he's going to weigh in. I'm not saying he's going to beat him all the time, but I think he is going to. I think he's going to finish ahead of Charles in a few of the races this season. I think so.
All right.
And I'll say this, and if he doesn't, then it doesn't look good. But I'm gonna stay optimistic and think that yes, he will.
Okay.
He's a 7-time world champion. Let's see what he does. Okay.
All right.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us. We'll be coming to you May 1st. Well, the season, the next race is May 1st. We'll be coming to you that Sunday with our episode on the Miami Grand Prix. Until then, please remember to share, and subscribe to All Things and Fellas, and we'll see you in 1 month.